Simon of the Desert has a best lap time of 1:26.285.
Simon is not giving up and will be looking for every 10th.
With just 3 minutes left before we move to qualification, there is not long left for these drivers to finish their preparations.
There is always more time to be found, but Wilson is not guaranteed to find it.
It's a lovely day for racing here at ASRL Blackwood V2 as we watch these drivers warm up and get ready for the race. Simon just posted a 1:26.793 crossing start finish.
The time clock can be a cruel mistress that is all too willing to show you your faults.
Shelby is on his first practice flying lap. Simon of the Desert posted 1:24.113 on his last lap, and will be pushing hard for an even lower time. Shelby has a best lap time of 1:24.371.
Shelby is not giving up and will be looking for every 10th.
Lekmansky is on his practice out lap. It's a lovely day for racing here at ASRL Blackwood V2 as we watch these drivers warm up and get ready for the race. Lekmansky is getting to grips with the ASRL Shelby Mustang GT350R in this practice session. With just 2 minutes left before we move to qualification, there is not long left for these drivers to finish their preparations. Assad Streaming is on his practice out lap. Get ready for some high-octane action, as the drivers take on the challenge of qualifying at ASRL Blackwood V2.
Let's see who's got the speed and the skills to take the pole position.
Adam is on his out lap. It's all about strategy in these early moments. Malero is taking his time to prepare for his qualifying run and get everything just right.
It's all about finding that balance between staying calm and focused, while also pushing the limits.
Malero crosses the start-finish line at the end of his outlap. It looks like Simon of the Desert is getting ready to make his move. He's taking his time to warm up those tires and get everything just right.
This is the moment he's been preparing for. Let's see if he can execute.
As Simon of the Desert completes the outlap, he will be hoping there's enough space on track to fully attack on the flying lap. The adrenaline is pumping. Ryan Wilson is on his out lap, warming up the tires and getting ready to put in a fast lap time. That's the outlap done for Ryan Wilson. He'll now look to focus on his first flying lap. It's clear that Olyat 2389 is pushing his car to the very edge of traction on this qualifying lap. There are just over 10 minutes left in this qualification session. Malero has just completed that lap in 1:22.813, which is 1.104 off the best time, putting him in P3. Ryan Wilson has found an extra 0.13. Adam is in the green by 0.3. Adam is currently on provisional pole, with a time of 1:21.388.
It may be difficult for him to improve on that. Sometimes trying too hard makes you slower. It's far better to drive smooth and smart.
Simon of the Desert is now up 0.23. Ryan Wilson has found an extra 0.11. Steady will be happy, with a time good enough for 5th in this qualifying session.
It may be difficult for him to find that missing 1.416, but that won't stop him from trying.
Adam is now up 0.12. Adam is currently on provisional pole, with a time of 1:21.232. There are just over 5 minutes left in this qualification session. Kevin Lekmansky has found an extra 0.29. Adam is currently on provisional pole, with a time of 1:21.032. Simon of the Desert is now up 0.4. Simon of the Desert has some work to do, as his best time of 1:23.409 is only good enough for 8.
That's not a bad time, but I am sure he will keep working on that 2.377 gap to pole.
Adam is in the green by 0.1. Simon of the Desert has some work to do, as his best time of 1:22.948 is only good enough for 6th.
There's at least 1.916 seconds to be found, but Simon may be looking for it in the wrong places.
Kevin Lekmansky has put in a great effort and currently holds 8th. With the session winding down, time is running out to unleash his full potential for a better starting position.
Spot-on analysis, Marco. Lekmansky is positioned well in 8th. It's crucial for him to maintain his focus and defend his position in the upcoming race.
Kevin Lekmansky will be happy, with a time good enough for 5th in this qualifying session.
Every fraction of a second counts. He is surely working on that 1.562 gap to pole.
It's an impressive showing by David Zahn, currently in 8th. He's showcased his talent, but will need to find. David Zahn will be happy, with a time good enough for 4th in this qualifying session.
It may be difficult for him to find that missing 1.464, but that won't stop him from trying.
Impressive work from Oyat2389, who has claimed 5th on the grid. Now, the focus is on maintaining his composure and push for an even better starting position.
You're spot on, Marco. Oyi's current position of 5th is a testament to his skills and determination. Now, there is the challenge of maintaining his position against hungry rivals.
Currently in 4th, David Zahn has displayed promising speed during the qualifying session. The real test lies in whether he can convert this performance into a higher grid position.
I couldn't agree more, Marco. Zahn has done a fantastic job to claim 4th. The challenge now is to convert this opportunity into a strong race result.
David Zahn will be happy, with a time good enough for 4th in this qualifying session.
Every fraction of a second counts. He is surely working on that 1.392 gap to pole.
Kevin Lekmansky has secured a respectable 6th in the qualifying session. This is a great spot to use as a launchpad for a strong race performance. It's a very still day here at ASRL Blackwood V2, as we're getting ready to kick things off. Adam is starting this race on pole.
He can't get cocky. This is ASRL, and anything can happen.
Ryan Wilson will be looking to convert this front row start into a win.
He can't count his chickens before they've hatched. There is a long way to go.
Coming in at third, we have Malero.
Malero is in a good place to mount a good challenge come the first corner.
David Zahn is going to be starting from fourth.
David will be ready to show what he's made of.
Oh Yeah 2389 is holding down the fort in fifth place.
Oh Yeah is hoping for a strong result.
Kevin Lech-Mansky lines up in sixth place as the engines rev and the race begins.
Putting that ASRL Shelby Mustang GT350R into prime position for the race.
In the middle of the pack, we have Sketty starting from the 7th position on the grid.
The American driver has been driving the wheels off the ASRL Shelby Mustang GT350R in practice.
The 8th starting position belongs to Simon of the Desert, who will be looking to make up ground early on.
That ASRL Shelby Mustang GT350R looks like it has some potential.
Stefano Amadei has qualified 9th. The moment we've been waiting for has arrived. The green flag is waving and the race is on.
These opening moments can make or break a driver's race. Strategy and skill are key to navigating this intense start.
There's some intense battling throughout the field as everyone is feeling out the drivers around them.
It's always intense racing here at ASRL Blackwood V2. Hold on to your hats, folks.
Is there a better sight than a field of elite racing drivers battling for position? I think passing is going to be difficult today here at ASRL Blackwood V2, so it's going to be interesting to see how these drivers get on. Having started in P4, David Zahn will be hoping for a good result in this race.
The race isn't won in the first turn, but there have been plenty that have ended there, Marco.
It's certainly not going to plan for Ryan Wilson right now, who is struggling to keep up with Adam. Oh Yeah 2389 is running fifth, and trying to catch Kevin Lech-Mansky. The gap between Oh Yeah 2389 and Kevin Lech-Mansky is widening. It's now up to 0.7 seconds.
This is not ideal for OYAT 2389, but there's still time to turn this around. He'll need to focus and not let that gap get any bigger.
Looks like David Zahn is really hitting those curbs aggressively, which can unsettle the car and cause handling issues.
Indeed, taking too much curb can upset the car's balance, leading to oversteer or understeer.
Ryan Wilson is giving it his all, chasing down Adam in P1.
This is not going to be an easy pass to make.
Oh, this is getting intense. Simon of the Desert is just a few car lengths behind David Zahn.
Simon is really pushing the limits. He's riding the curbs and hustling that ASRL Shelby Mustang GT350R like a boss.
Look at that. David Zahn is hot on the tail of OYAT 2389.
It's a fine line between pushing the car to its limits and losing control. Zahn is really walking that fine line.
This is a thrilling battle as Simon of the Desert edges closer to David Zahn in their fight for P6.
This is where every inch counts. Simon is pushing hard to close the gap on Zahn. Absolutely, precision and control are key here. Knowing when to push and when to hold back can be the difference between winning and losing.
It's not looking good for Simon of the Desert, who is still behind David Zahn and the gap is increasing. Janet, how do racing drivers like yourself train to maintain concentration for long periods of time?
Mental training is a huge part of the driver's preparation, Marco. Techniques like meditation, visualization, and working with sports psychologists can help drivers build their focus and mental endurance for a race.
Oh, this is getting intense. Steady needs to keep Simon of the Desert in his sights. Breaking update. I don't think that's the fastest way around ASRL Blackwood V2. The battle for P6 is heating up as Simon of the Desert tries to catch David Zahn in P6.
I would not be surprised to see him challenge for the position.
This is where the race gets really interesting. Kevin Lekmansky is closing in on Malero.
We'll have to wait to see if Kevin can use the draft to his advantage, or if the lack of downforce will hinder his progress.
It looks like Kevin Lekmansky is making a move. The gap to Malero is now down to 0.4 seconds. This is where the skill and precision of the drivers really comes into play. Simon of the Desert is chasing David Zahn in P6.
The gap between them is just over 0.5 seconds. Can Simon close that gap and get back in range? I can't see it happening at this point.
Oh, this is getting intense. Kevin, wait. Fantastic move from Kevin Lekmansky, who has just gained a position.
Yes, Lekmansky is driving with real focus and precision, and it's paying off.
The pursuit is on. OYAT 2389 is closing the gap on Kevin Lekmansky, determined to claim P4, breaking alert. Oh dear, OYAT 2389 has dropped down to 6th. 3 cars, breaking development. It's true what they say, Janet, they're never completely useless.
Indeed, Marco, you can always be used as a bad example.
David Zahn is pushing really hard, but as we know, pushing too hard can lead to other mistakes, like locking up the brakes or missing a shift. It seems like David Zahn has got the bit between his teeth, improving on Simon of the Desert's lap time there.
As long as Dave can maintain that consistency and pace, it will be interesting to see.
You know, Janet, I've always wondered, how do racing drivers stay so cool and collected under such immense pressure?
Well, Marco, it comes down to mental strength and training. Drivers often work with sports psychologists and practice techniques like meditation and visualization to help them stay calm and focused during high-pressure situations.
Pushing too hard can lead to mistakes, and we're seeing that now. That car is really unsettled from being pushed for every last bit of speed.
I would not be surprised to see him get this pass completed soon.
It's game on now. Simon of the Desert has closed the gap to Sketty. It's now down to 0.2 seconds.
This is what racing is all about, hard-fought battles with as much determination as respect, between friends and enemies alike.
Now I may be wrong here, but I'm not sure that's the racing line.
Stefano is not going to be happy about that.
Simon of the Desert is looking for a way to close that gap to Sketty.
We'll have to wait to see if Simon can get into drafting range.
Simon of the Desert is not able to keep his pace consistent, and is currently 1.22 seconds down.
Simon needs to regroup and refocus and knock it up a notch.
A solid performance from Adam, who is holding down first. Oh, Janet, Adam has seen his lead over Ryan Wilson shrink to 3.0 seconds.
This is where the mental strength of Adam comes into play. He'll need to stay calm and composed under pressure.
The pursuit is on. Simon of the Desert is working on that gap to Sketty, determined to claim P4. Simon of the Desert is trying his best, but can't seem to find the pace to keep up with Sketty at the moment. Well, it doesn't look like Simon of the Desert is going to be much of a threat to anyone soon, let alone Sketty.
Every race adds to a driver's experience, both good and bad. It just highlights that Simon is going to have to get more serious with practice to not get outclassed on the circuit.
It's all about consistency for Sketty, who is currently fourth. The gap between Sketty and Simon of the Desert is getting smaller. It's now down to 0.9 seconds. Wait. Oh dear, oh yeah, 2389 has had an incident. Simon of the Desert is on a mission, chasing Sketty, who's currently got a comfortable lead. The gap between Simon of the Desert and Sketty is growing. It's now up to 1.1 seconds. Simon of the Desert is staying focused while chasing Sketty in P4. A strong showing from Adam, who is currently first.
Definitely Marco, but Adam can't afford to get complacent. This race is going to require focus and intensity.
Adam has just put in a faster lap than Ryan Wilson, so that's going to give him something to worry about. Simon of the Desert is trying to catch up to Sketty. The gap is slowly closing, but time is running out. Situations like these often lead to a dramatic finish. It's not going to plan for Simon of the Desert, who is trailing behind Sketty and the gap is widening. He may not have. Hold on a moment. That won't be ideal for Sketty.
ASRL Blackwood V2 is always a test for these drivers, and sometimes that's the way it goes.
Simon of the Desert wants to close that gap with Sketty.
It looks like Simon has the speed to make a move. I just hope he can do it cleanly.
Kevin Lekmansky is on a mission, chasing David Zahn, who's desperately trying to stay ahead.
The mental game is just as important here. Kevin must keep his cool while putting pressure on Zahn.
The race is really heating up. Simon of the Desert is hunting down Sketty with everything he's got.
Simon needs to focus to have a chance at getting past Sketty.
It looks like we might get a battle between Simon of the Desert and Sketty. The pressure is on as Kevin Lekmansky works on catching up to David Zahn.
The gap between them is now just over 0.9 seconds.
Kevin Lekmansky is pushing hard and has reduced the gap to David Zahn to 0.6 seconds. I love being here at ASRL Blackwood V2. What an awesome place to be witnessing these titans of the track battle it out.
Indeed, Marco, what a magnificent sight and sound. I love listening to the roar of these engines. Let's just listen for a moment.
It looks like Simon of the Desert is pushing hard to catch up to Sketty.
Simon needs to find a little extra speed to bring the fight to Sketty and move up the field.
Kevin Lekmansky wants to find a way round David Zahn.
He'll need to keep it on the road, or at the very least the rumble strips. The fastest way around is not usually in the grass. As the saying goes, too much grass will slow you down.
It's certainly not going to plan for Kevin Lekmansky right now, who is struggling to keep up with David Zahn.
He needs to pick up the pace for sure, but that's not always a real possibility.
In your experience, Janet, what was the most challenging aspect of maintaining concentration during a race?
The most challenging aspect, Marco, was managing the various inputs and distractions during the race, from radio communication with the team to monitoring car performance and race strategy. It's a delicate balance.
Breaking news, folks. Big gains for Kevin Lekmansky as they move up the field, leaving David Zahn behind. Simon of the Desert has a mountain to climb at the moment to close that gap with Sketty. I expect his only hope at this point is that Sketty makes an error. These drivers are walking a razor's edge between pushing the limits and making costly errors.
Absolutely, it's all about finding that sweet spot where you're pushing the car to its limits without crossing the line into reckless driving. It's a game of strategy now as David hunts down Kevin. Yes, it's all about choosing the right moments to push and when to conserve energy, waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike.
Hold on a moment. Ryan Wilson is bidding. David Zahn is giving it his all, chasing down Kevin Lekmansky in P6.
It's all about choosing the right moments to push and when to conserve energy, waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike.
The gap between David Zahn and Kevin Lekmansky is widening. It's now up to 0.7 seconds.
This is where the mental toughness of Dave comes into play. He'll need to stay focused and keep pushing, even when things aren't going his way.
It doesn't seem like things are going to plan for Simon of the Desert as there is a big gap ahead.
Anything can happen yet, and it usually does. I've certainly seen drivers come back from worse.
It's not looking good for Simon of the Desert, who is still behind Steady, and the gap is increasing.
Simon needs to get it together to make a dent in that gap.
Breaking update. A great moment for Simon of the Desert, who has just gained a place and moved up the standings.
Amazing stuff. Focus and precision, what it's all about.
It's a nail-biting showdown between these three drivers. They're nose to tail, pushing their limits in every corner. David Zahn is trying his best, but can't seem to find the pace to keep up with Kevin Lekmansky at the moment.
It's not over yet, but Zahn needs to get a move on if they want to catch up to Kevin.
It's looking good for Simon of the Desert, sitting in fourth. Excellent work from Simon of the Desert, who has managed to increase his lead over Kevin Lekmansky.
It's clear that Simon is dominating right now. He's making it very difficult for Lekmansky to catch up.
This is a thrilling battle as Simon of the Desert edges closer to Steady in their fight for P3. Oyat 2389 is pushing to maintain the lead, while Stefano Amadei is working to close in and challenge for the position.
Oh yeah, is not going to give up his position easily.
Good news for Stefano Amadei. The gap to Oyat 2389 has decreased. It's now down to 43.6 seconds.
That's a great effort from Stefano. He'll need to keep up the pressure and see if he can make a move.
Janet, what's the impact of tire degradation on race strategy? How does it affect a driver's approach to the race?
Tire degradation plays a crucial role in race strategy, Marco. Teams and drivers have to consider the optimal time to pit for fresh tires and adjust their race pace to balance speed with tire conservation. It adds another layer of complexity to the racing challenge.
Things are heating up as Steady tries to close the gap to Simon of the Desert.
You can see that car bouncing around as it rides the curves. It's a risky move that could end in disaster.
The gap between Steady and Simon of the Desert is growing. It's now up to 0.8 seconds.
Steady needs to focus and keep pushing, even when things aren't going his way. If he can close the gap down, he may be able to bring the fight to Simon.
Kevin Lekmansky is running fifth and trying to catch Steady.
The gap is 0.5 seconds now. Kevin is going to have to work a bit harder to close that gap with Steady.
It looks like Kevin Lekmanski is making a move. The gap to Skeddy is now down to 0.4 seconds. Skeddy is placed fourth at the moment, and hoping to keep his distance ahead of Kevin Lekmanski, who is 0.5 seconds behind. Some great driving from Skeddy, who has increased his lead over Kevin Lekmanski and is starting to put some distance between them.
That's exactly what Skeddy needed to do.
Adam is on fire in the last second.
He's going to need to make some more room on that trophy shelf back home.
The leader has done it. What an incredible performance from Adam, who was simply untouchable today. This is a race that will go down in the history books.
What a result for Adam. He'll be absolutely thrilled with that performance, and rightly so. He really put in the work and it's paid off in spades.
Followed by Stefano Amadei in 8th. What a drive from Malero, securing a great second place finish. Excellent focus from Simon of the Desert to secure a fantastic third place on the podium. Taking 4th, 5th, and 6th is Skeddy, Kevin Lekmanski, and David Zahn. Oyat 2389 takes 7th. There's a little bit of wind in the air today here at ASRL Blackwood V2, as we're getting ready to get things underway.
The tension's building now. This is going to be another great race.
Starting in pole position gives Stefano Amadei a clear advantage over the rest of the field.
It's also a nightmare if he can't hold onto it. Let's see how he will handle the pressure.
Oyat 2389 is starting this race on the front row.
He can't let that advantage go to waste. He will need to stay focused and keep his eyes on the prize.
As the drivers prepare to take off, David Zahn sits in third place on the starting grid.
It's not always easy to get the ASRL Shelby Mustang GT350R this high up the starting grid.
Taking the fourth spot is Kevin Lekmansky.
Another good start for the American driver.
Sketty is lining up fifth.
The American driver will be focused on a good result from here.
In the sixth position, it's none other than Simon of the Desert.
I think we are all looking forward to seeing what Simon can do from here.
Starting from the seventh position, Malero will need to navigate through the field to challenge for the win.
The proof will most definitely be in the pudding for this Brazilian driver.
Adam is lining up eighth.
Don't count Adam out yet. He's got the skills to pay the bills.
Ryan Wilson is placed in ninth. The starting signal has been given, and the drivers face the uncertainty of the first lap. With cars packed tightly together, the potential for spins or collisions is high.
Avoiding contact while trying to gain position is essential. The first lap is often where we see incidents that can change the course of the race.
The tensions are high, and no one will want to make a crucial mistake on the first lap. Every lap is an opportunity for Sketty to learn just a little bit more to shave a few tenths or hundredths off his times.
The drivers will be jostling for the best position, Marco. Some of them may not make it to the second lap in one piece.
Ryan Wilson looks like he got off to a flying first lap, gaining places straight out of the gate.
That certainly gives Ryan an early advantage. Let's see if he can put it to good use.
The drivers are jockeying for position. Stefano Amadei will be looking to get off to a good start and consolidate his position. It's a solid performance from Oyat 2389 at the moment. He's holding his position and not getting too caught up in battles around him. Looks like Stefano Amadei is really hitting those curves aggressively, which can unsettle the car and cause handling issues.
Indeed, taking too much curve can upset the car's balance, leading to oversteer or understeer. The gap between them is just over 0.5 seconds, which can feel like miles if you're trailing and not catching up.
It's not going to plan for Stefano Amadei, who is trailing behind Kevin Lekmansky, and the gap is widening. He may not have an answer for this right now. The pressure is on as Oyat 2389 tries to catch up to Steady. It's a close race. Breaking news, folks. A great pass for Simon of the Desert, swapping places with David Zahn to move up the field.
Yes, but Simon can't rest on his laurels, but needs to keep pushing to consolidate his position.
This is getting exciting. David Zahn is looking for any gap that might open up the position. This is where the race gets really interesting. Steady is closing in on Stefano Amadei. Oh, this is getting intense. Adam is just a few car lengths behind Simon of the Desert.
With just 0.5 seconds between them, Adam will need to close the gap to have hopes of a pass.
Every move counts now as Steady works to reel in Stefano Amadei and overtake for P2. It's game on now. Steady has closed the gap to Stefano Amadei. It's now down to 0.3 seconds. The battle for P3 is heating up as Oyat 2389 tries to catch Steady in P3.
This is not going to be an easy pass to make.
In racing, anything can, and usually does, happen, especially in such an epic showdown.
Steady is so close to Stefano that if this were a dance floor, they'd be doing the tango.
This is a thrilling battle as Adam edges closer to Simon of the Desert in their fight for P7.
Sometimes you have to take risks to win, but pushing the car too hard can be a costly mistake. Adam needs to be careful not to overdo it.
This is what it's all about, folks. Steady is in hot pursuit of Stefano Amadei, who's just trying to stay ahead. The pursuit is on. Oyat 2389 is closing the gap on Steady, determined to claim P3. The pressure is really on for Stefano Amadei in third as Oyat 2389 is closing in. This is where experience and skill really count.
If Oyat gets any closer to the back of Stefano, then one of them is going to need some lube if they want to take this further.
Pushing too hard can lead to mistakes, and we're seeing that now. That car is really unsettled from being pushed for every last bit of speed. Look at that. Adam is hot on the tail of Simon of the Desert.
It's a fine line between pushing the car to its limits and losing control. Adam is really walking that fine line.
This is where the skill and precision of the drivers really comes into play. Oyat 2389 is chasing Steady in P3. The race is really heating up. Adam is hunting down Simon of the Desert with everything he's got.
Adam is looking to close the 0.4 second gap and make a pass.
This is what racing is all about. Two fierce competitors pushing each other to the limit.
Oyat is following Steady so closely, he could start charging him rent for occupying the same space on the track.
This one's going to be tough. Steady is getting his elbows out, and there may not be enough time left for Oyat 2389 to make a move. The gap between Oyat 2389 and Steady is razor thin as they vie for third in this nail-biting contest. Great driving from Oyat 2389, who has just gained a place and moved up to third. Let's talk about tire degradation. Janet, how does it affect the car's handling, and what do drivers need to do to adapt to the changing conditions?
Tire degradation can significantly impact handling, Marco. As the tires wear, the grip reduces, and drivers need to adjust their braking points, cornering speeds, and throttle application to maintain control of the car.
Oyat 2389 is giving it his all, chasing down Stefano Amadei in P2. No room for error here. Braking update. A brilliant maneuver from Simon of the Desert, who has just moved up the field.
You can't argue with results like that. Simon is really making his mark on this race.
Things are heating up as Adam tries to close the gap to Simon of the Desert. Oyat 2389 is pushing really hard, but as we know, pushing too hard can lead to other mistakes, like locking up the brakes or missing a shift.
The gap between them is just over 0.5 seconds. Can Oyat close that gap and get back in range? I can't see it happening at this point.
Steady is on a mission, chasing Oyat 2389, who's desperately trying to stay ahead. Hold your breath, folks. These drivers are showing exceptional car control, threading the needle through tight corners. It's a battle for supremacy.
You're absolutely right.
Hold that thought. Talk about pressure. Oyat 2389 is caught in the middle, feeling the heat from both Sketty and Stefano. The gap between Stefano Amadei and Ryan Wilson may be wide, but that doesn't mean Stefano Amadei is safe. He's got to maintain concentration and avoid any lapses in performance.
Absolutely right, Marco. And Ryan knows he's got to keep driving at his best and take advantage of any opportunity that comes his way.
Ryan Wilson is running fifth and trying to catch Stefano Amadei. The pressure is on as Sketty tries to catch up to Oyat 2389. The gap between Sketty and Oyat 2389 is getting smaller.
Exactly what Sketty needed. He can't afford to lose any more ground to Oyat.
The battle for P8 is heating up as David Zahn tries to catch Simon of the Desert in P8. Every move counts now as Sketty works to reel in Oyat 2389 and overtake for P2.
One important aspect here is choosing the right braking points. Sketty needs to be precise to avoid overshooting and losing valuable time.
Oh, this is getting intense. Ryan Wilson is just a few car lengths behind Stefano Amadei.
Wilson is really pushing the limits. He's riding the curbs and hustling that ASRL Shelby Mustang GT350R like a boss.
Pushing too hard can lead to mistakes, and we're seeing that now. That car is really unsettled from being pushed for every last bit of speed.
This is where every inch counts. Sketty is pushing hard to close the gap on Oyat. Absolutely, precision and control are key here. Knowing when to push and when to hold back can be the difference between winning and losing.
Look at that. David Zahn is hot on the tail of Simon of the Desert.
David needs to focus to have a chance at getting past Simon.
It's certainly not going to plan for David Zahn right now, who is struggling to keep up with Simon of the Desert.
This is a tough situation for Zahn. He'll need to find a way to pick up some speed and close that gap.
This is where the race gets really interesting. Sketty is closing in on Oyat 2389.
No doubt, both drivers know that one mistake could cost them the position. It's a test of nerves as much as skill.
These drivers are walking a razor's edge between pushing the limits and making costly errors.
Absolutely, it's all about finding that sweet spot where you're pushing the car to its limits without crossing the line into reckless driving. Don't forget the role of aerodynamics. Ryan should use slipstreaming to his advantage and close the gap to Stefano.
Looks like Simon of the Desert is really hitting those curves aggressively, which can unsettle the car and cause handling issues.
Indeed, taking too much curve can upset the car's balance, leading to oversteer or understeer. It's a game of strategy now as Simon hunts down Zahn. Yes, it's all about choosing the right moments to push and when to conserve energy, waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike.
The fans are on the edge of their seats. It doesn't get any. Hold on a second. It's looking good for Skeddy, who has gained a place after passing Oyat 2389.
Definitely, but there's still a long way to go in this race, and anything can happen. Skeddy needs to keep driving with focus and intensity.
Ryan Wilson is giving it his all, chasing down Stefano Amadei in P4. Simon of the Desert is pushing really hard, but as we know, pushing too hard can lead to other mistakes, like locking up the brakes or missing a shift.
You can see that car bouncing around as it rides the curves. It's a risky move that could end in disaster.
It's a game of inches now as Oyat 2389 tails Skeddy closely, ready to capitalize on any mistake.
It's going to be a close one.
Stop the press. I don't think that's the fastest way around a SRL Blackwood V2.
It's a real shame. Until this point in the race he'd been looking at a decent result.
This is a thrilling battle as Ryan Wilson edges closer to Stefano Amadei in their fight for P4.
The gap is 0.4 seconds now. Wilson is going to have to work a bit harder to close that gap with Stefano.
We got a close battle as Skeddy closes in on Oyat 2389.
This battle between Skeddy and Oyat 2389 is so intense, you could cut the tension with a knife, or should I say, with a front wing.
Ryan Wilson seems to be putting the pressure on Stefano Amadei.
There is no room for error in this battle.
Hard break for Ryan Wilson as they slip down the field.
That's got to be frustrating. But Wilson is a skilled driver, and he's got what it takes to battle back up the field.
Things are heat. Hold the phone. Superb driving from Skeddy, who with that overtake has gained a position in the race. Braking development. A tough moment for Skeddy, who has just lost a place, now in third.
Yes, but there's still plenty of race left. Skeddy needs to stay calm and focused, and make his move when the time is right.
This is where the skill and precision of the drivers really comes into play. Skeddy is chasing Oyat 2389 in P2. It seems like Skeddy is struggling. His last lap time was a bit off the pace of Oyat 2389.
Hopefully Skeddy can find some of that missing time and get it back.
The drivers are showing their mettle today. It's a privilege to witness their skill on this challenging track.
The stakes have never been higher. This is a battle of skill and nerves.
That's right. These drivers are really pushing themselves to the limit, and it's incredible to see the level of focus and determination they're bringing to the track.
Absolutely. It takes a lot of courage to compete at this level, and these drivers have it in spades. Let's hope they can keep it up and give us a race to remember.
The pursuit is on. Skeddy is closing the gap on Oyat 2389, determined to claim P2. Things are going according to plan for David Zahn, who is currently 8th.
That's right. Zahn can't afford to make any mistakes or let up. Every point counts in this championship.
Impressive driving from David Zahn, who has managed to extend his lead over Simon of the Desert. It looks like Simon of the Desert will have to regroup and try to make up that. Breaking news, folks. Fantastic move from David Zahn, who has just gained a position. Oh, this is getting intense. Skeddy needs to keep Oyat 2389 in his sights.
This is where every inch counts. Skeddy is pushing hard to close the gap on Oyat.
Sketty is pushing hard and has reduced the gap to Oyat 2389 to 0.5 seconds. A solid performance from David Zahn, who is holding down 7th. The race is really heating up. Sketty is hunting down Oyat 2389 with everything he's got.
The gap between them is now just over 0.5 seconds.
Looking at the lap times, Sketty is not currently on pace with Oyat 2389. Maybe he'll get a chance to see where to make up some time.
It will be interesting to see if Oyat can keep outpacing Sketty.
The tension is building as Simon of the Desert trails behind David Zahn. The gap is slowly but surely decreasing, and the pressure is mounting. It's an intense battle for position as Sketty tries to outmaneuver Oyat 2389. This is edge of your seat racing.
You know what they say, keep your friends close, and your racing rivals even closer. Looks like Sketty is taking that.
Braking alert. An impressive showing from Sketty, who has gained positions and left Oyat 2389 in the dust. Oyat 2389 is running third, and trying to catch Sketty. The gap between Oyat 2389 and Sketty is widening. It's now up to 0.5 seconds. Well, it doesn't look like Ryan Wilson is going to be much of a threat to anyone soon, let alone Oyat 2389. The pressure is on as Oyat 2389 tries to catch up to Sketty. Oyat 2389 needs to find some speed, or maybe get more consistent. Janet, he's just put in a slower lap than Sketty.
Hopefully Oyat 2389 can find some of that missing time and get it back.
It's a game of cat and mouse out there, with Ryan Wilson trying to find the perfect opportunity to make a move on Oyat 2389. The gap is over a second, but every fraction counts.
Absolutely. Wilson in fourth will need to be patient and work carefully to reduce that gap without overdriving it, as he can't afford to take unnecessary risks, and that might lead to an off or damaging their car.
It's not looking good for Ryan Wilson, who is still behind Oyat 2389, and the gap is increasing.
This is a
Hold that thought. A setback for Ryan Wilson, who has just been passed. It's all about consistency for Kevin Lekmansky, who is currently second.
Definitely, but he can't get too comfortable. There are plenty of other drivers gunning for that position, and Lekmansky has to keep pushing to stay on the pace.
Oh no, Janet, look at this. Sketty is closing in on Kevin Lekmansky. The gap is now just 8.8 seconds.
This is where the pressure really starts to mount on Lekmansky. He'll need to stay focused and not make any.
Hold on a second. What a move. Kevin Lekmansky has moved up to first.
That's what we like to see. Lekmansky is really showing his class today.
Simon of the Desert has a mountain to climb at the moment to close that gap with David Zahn. I expect his only hope at this point is that David makes an error.
Every race adds to a driver's experience, both good and bad. It just highlights that Simon is going to have to get more serious with practice to not get outclassed on the circuit.
Great driving from Simon of the Desert, who has just gained a place and moved up to 7th. It's a brilliant day for racing, and the drivers are putting on a show.
Absolutely. What a great race we are witnessing today. These drivers are giving it their all, and it's a thrill to watch them compete at this level.
They're really pushing themselves and their machines to the limit, and it's paying off with some incredible driving.
It's a pleasure to be here today, Marco. You really can't beat the excitement of a good race, especially one as competitive as this.
Wow, Kevin Lekmansky is really pushing hard in these final moments of the race.
You got this, Kevin. Keep it cool and bring it home.
What a win! This is a historic moment for Kevin Lekmansky, who put on a masterclass in driving today. What a display of skill and precision.
And that's why Kevin is one of the best in the business. A dominant display of driving from start to finish, leaving the rest of the pack in the dust.
Shelby never gave up. He drove with heart and determination, ultimately securing a well-deserved second-place finish.
Intense race, but Shelby held his nerve and earned a great second place.
Impressive drive from GT350R to claim the final spot on the podium.
Fantastic result.
Adam, Malera, David Zahn, and Simon of the Desert in 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. Eighth is Stefano Amadei.